Welcome to the riskadvisor.com podcast. I'm Sal Lafreri, and I'm here with my good friend and co-host, Jim Henry. Before we begin, we're going to like to remind each of you to subscribe to the show and to push the like button for us. It's really important for us to pick up a bigger audience, and we really need your support. So please hit that like button and follow us along. Today's topic, we're talking about broadening the talent pool, women in security. So, Jim, things have changed over the years with the advent of women coming into the technology sector, coming into the workplace as technicians and above. Something that we didn't see many years ago. Your thoughts?
Yeah, well, the one thing that hasn't changed is security has always been an industry, electronic security specifically, has always been an industry that has struggled to attract new young talent to it. It's not quite as glamorous as some other industries. In fact, in my dad's day, when he started his business in communications back in 1950, there just was no educational program for technicians, coming into television and radio and communications and whatnot. So much of it was the school of hard knocks and a lot of the family-owned businesses. And many families found the best ways to recruit new talent was to make them themselves. And that's why you see a lot of second and third and fourth generations, in those businesses. But post 9/11, security's really become part of the GMP of large new projects. It gets funding like other utilities do. And the challenge is, attracting talent, into the industry. So it's, that and the other problem has been, like you said, that, there were very, very, very few people, in my dad's day. And even when I, was starting my business, in this field. And this is a great timing, to be able to not only provide career opportunities, for women, in this field, but to satisfy this need that the security industry has had for decades to attract new young talent in, because many, Sal, actually followed, your path. You put in 20, 25 years, in law enforcement, and then, you move into consulting or electronic security and whatnot. I mean, that's really why, the demographics of the security industry were so, we're so tilted. But enough of our banter. Let's talk to the star of the show here. We are honored and it is a privilege to have as our guest Maureen Carlo. I've known Maureen now, I guess, for a couple of decades. And we actually were in similar environments back in the 80s, 90s, but didn't know each other at that point in time when she was with Wells Communications, which dates back.
You're aging me by about a decade or two.
A decade? Well, I round.
But I digress. Continue.
But more recently, Maureen is the business development manager for BCD. No, that's an old title now.
That is a very old title.
Okay. I will let you update me on all of your accomplishments. But the one thing that Maureen is very active in, and that's a part of the reason for having her be our guest today, is she's very active in the Women in Security organization, that is sponsored by SIA, and therefore is very much part of the educational process for not only businesses that are looking to hire talent, but for the women that may be looking at or considering security for a field. So with that, Maureen, how about you give a better introduction than what I did?
Well, I enjoy your introduction nonetheless, Jim. But being a woman in security, I work hard for my role every day, and I earned a director's title about a year and a half ago from BCD International. So I was happy and proud to move up from business development manager to the director of strategic alliances covering North America for BCD International. And then I also proudly chair the Women in Security Forum for SIA.
Great. So what got you into let's say security, but communications business when you went into Wells initially, and how did that migrate then into specifically the electronic security field?
Well, that's a story that I probably have had more fun sharing with you I think the reason you and I bonded the first time, I remember sitting with you at a bar at PSA Tech in Westminster, Colorado, and we were discussing both being Motorola 2A radio dealers in our past life. And that's really what brought us together initially. So I did start out working in fine dining. I was not intending to be in sales in technology. I think for many people in our industry, we came into this kind of by accident. But I had an opportunity many years ago, around 2005, to join a company part-time selling communications technology business to business. I was selling Nextel phones, working to government entities and C-suite level at businesses. And the company that I worked with, Wells, as you mentioned, they were a Motorola 2A radio house. And I discovered working with them that I quite enjoyed technology, which I had always been a fan of, but I wanted to learn about the technology more in depth, because here I was initially selling phones, but I wanted to sell on value. So I started participating in some education, and I remember going to my first Motorola conference and thinking, oh my goodness, there are 495 men and 5 women in this room. Like, what is up with this industry that it's so male dominated? I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't startled by it, but I hadn't been in this industry before, so I wasn't expecting it. And then as my awareness of an interest in technology grew, that brought me into learning more about security. Our company was dabbling in CCTV and analog video, and I learned about something called a VMS. So I wanted to take it upon myself to become more involved in security. And that's when I transitioned my role from being a communications consultant to a security integrator. And that's when I got more involved with this industry as a whole and discovered that, not unlike Motorola, it was a very male-dominated industry. So in order to get involved, I needed to do something to stand out a little bit more. And that was really educating myself in the industry.
So in those early days when the numbers were that skewed, there's probably some people that kind of looked at you and said, what do you really know about, security? Because there's not been a lot of people from your background in that, in that field. But I imagine you also had a lot of encouragement. So, kind of share some of the experiences both ways.
I did. And I'm going to say I definitely had more encouragement than the opposite. But that's because I really wanted to learn about what I was doing. I remember walking into a wastewater treatment facility one time on a cold call, and it was pretty sparsely occupied with people. And they heard heels. They said, "What does that sound?" We hear it sounds like high heels. And there's a woman coming in here. And I went in to talk with them about their business. And they were surprised that I had actually done my research and I understood their business. But I had one great experience I remember once I was pivoting to the security role. I was going in to meet with an IT director of a municipality. And it was the same week as ISC West. But I did not know what ISC West was, being the largest security conference in North America. So my rep that I was used to dealing with to help answer questions and provide some technology, guidance and support for me, he wasn't able to come to this meeting. But I thought I was pretty well prepared. And when I went into this meeting, the IT director, after a while, he said, "Maureen, when did you become an IT person?" And I'm looking around the room thinking, me? But I was so impressed with myself that he believed in what I was saying and was listening to me as a subject matter expert, helping introduce something about our technologies with IP video that he'd not experienced before. So I was very fortunate that along the way in those early days, I did find many male allies who wanted to work with me because I was coming in as a subject matter expert in an area where they were not getting educated properly. So I always felt as though I wanted to be more of a trusted advisor who could help educate. And people took me seriously once I provide valuable education.
Well, you say that you were fortunate, but I am a firm believer that you make your own luck. And it was always that energy and that zest for knowledge and being a subject matter expert, that had me, be one of your great advocates in the number of the career paths that you've been in, because that's really it's whoever coined the phrase, 80%, perspiration and, 20% whatever. But, it's very true. It is very true. And that really has been a positive differentiator for you and for anybody, regardless of what man, woman, whatever. I mean, that's really what it takes to be successful. I think in most businesses, this is the industry that I know, and I can certainly vouch for the fact that that it is critical here. So when we go into the second segment, we'll talk a little bit about the logistics of now how to kind of tear down some of those barriers and develop that level of interest here to be able to broaden the talent pool. You are listening to the riskadvisor.com podcast hosted by myself, Jim Henry, and Sal Lafreri. And we invite you to comment on our blog at theriskadvisor.com and subscribe and follow us on our social media of your choice. You are interested in having one of both of us speak at an upcoming event or would like to consult with us, please go to our webpage at theriskadvisor.com to set that up. So going into the logistics, how are organizations responding to the outreach that you've been making, for this career path?
Well, you started by asking me about my getting involved in the industry. And I think most people of, my generation, your generation who got involved in the industry did so by accident. And people just don't know about this industry unless you've had a friend, family member, somebody involved with it. So focusing on outreach and education is very important to us. So we can not only try to encourage more women to get involved in the industry, but to encourage more young people to get involved in the industry in general, because we're finding that it's, without going out and telling people who we are, how are they going to know how sexy this industry really is? How do they know how to find us? So we're working to let people know at an earlier stage. But the pandemic has gotten in our way a little bit about how we go and we do that outreach and education that we had planned. We did have a plan to get into colleges, to get into universities last year, so we could go in and maybe go to some job fairs and get the news out there about who we are and what we do first. So we're really trying to come up with some more creative ideas to use connections that we have at universities to let us go in and set up virtual meetings where we can meet with some people who might be seniors in college and they're getting ready to graduate, but they don't know what this industry is. But at the same time, it's doing more outreach within our own industry so we can let people know what jobs are available, what roles are there that you can grow into that maybe you don't know about. I would see women involved in marketing and HR roles for a while, but do they know what else you can do? Do they, to see the women growing in our industry, and there's a community that we'll be talking about that we formed through SIA, but to see the different levels of roles that people have within the industry, not just sales, not just marketing, not just AR. You're seeing more women that have actually had experience as technicians, like you were discussing earlier, that are going in and working in manufacturing jobs, that are working in engineering roles. So I'm seeing that not only are there more women in the industry today, but with the outreach and education we're offering, there's more variety of what roles are being covered in the industry.
Right. You were very creative, not only those technical positions, but in senior executive level positions of being instrumental in bringing Juliet Kayam in as the keynote speaker there for Women in Security Forum, I guess a year and a half ago now, pre-COVID. I thought that was great because, then you're illustrating that there are some very high level positions that are available for women, in that space, at the consultant level. And why don't you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Well, I'm really glad you want to talk about that because you just gave me goosebumps when you brought that up. But that's one of my favorite stories about you, actually. And it's a story that I learned some growth from, and you learned some growth from. So going back to PSA Tech a couple of years ago, I guess it was in 2019, I remember talking with you about this event that the Women in Security Forum was planning on hosting at ISC West. And we had a formidable keynote coming in named Juliette Kayyem, who was an exceptional woman that I had seen speak at another industry, women in technology-focused event. And I told you that she was coming. I gave you some of the background of Juliette. And I remember you right away saying, "Oh, I'm not going to that." And I said to you, "Well, you're not my target audience." And then you took that. And I said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I take that you absolutely are a target audience." You know, my goal is not just to have the conversation with women. It's we need to be having the conversation about growing who we are and what we do in the industry with women and men collaboratively. So you said, "Okay, I will register and I will go to that breakfast event." And I remember seeing you in Las Vegas 2 days before that breakfast event. And I said to you, "I challenge you, Jim, to ask Juliette a question when we are at this event." And you said, "Okay, you would do that." And I was saying that because I follow her religiously on Twitter, and I saw her mansplain or respond to someone who was mansplaining her, you know, trying to explain something they didn't think she would know, and she annihilated them. And I did not want her to do that to you, but I thought you are someone that's going to have a hearty discussion with somebody like Juliette. So when you came to that event that morning, I remember inviting you to come and sit at the very top, you know, front table in front and center, right in front of the podium where she was speaking. And I introduced you to her. And I remember throughout her discussion, that room, it was so full of people. We invited on a Friday morning in Las Vegas, the last day of the conference, we invited people at 8 a.m. to come to an event. And it was standing room only. Over 200 people showed up that had seats and about 25 that didn't have seats. And you didn't ask the question at the end, but you raised your hand and you wanted to make a comment. And I don't know if you could help reiterate what that comment was, but I remember you being so inspired by the number and variety of people that you saw in the room that showed you how much of a next generation there already is in our industry.
Right. Well, I remember, you know, I was going to listen to the content of her, presentation and, try and find something, technical to ask her about what, she was saying. But quite honestly, even though we are not aligned politically, I thought that she gave a great presentation. And I think it was all very accurate from a security threat perspective and, and the backdrop that she talked about, in her experiences. So, as I recall, I just said, I just, wanted to make a comment that I really appreciated, her taking the time out of her busy schedule to come to such an event that could have such positive impact, for others considering a career path here. And I just, thanked her for her commitment of time.
But in addition to that, you were also, you specifically commented on the fact that it drew such a massive community into that room.
Oh, absolutely.
And the fact that it was inspiring to see so many young people and such a diverse audience within that room. That's when what you were saying, it was very heartfelt about the audience and what we were doing for the industry with this forum, not just Juliette. And that is what made me cry. But not that I want to get political here, because with you, we never want to do that. But you just mentioned politics. When Juliette sat down that day at the table after her presentation, you leaned across the table and you said to me, "I'll be her campaign manager." So that's how much you were inspired by her and believed in her too, politics aside.
Had to be a weak moment.
No, it was a very authentic moment. It was really beautiful. It literally did make me cry.
No, she did a great job, but kudos to you and to the other women on the council, for thinking, in that direction and recognizing, you do need some star power there to have people pay attention, to the opportunities there. But, there's no kidding aside, there are real extensive career opportunities here. I really don't see, and that's why I was asking you those early questions. I don't see any real legacy pushback of any scale from the industry, at this point with regards to, embracing, talent coming into this industry of all diverse backgrounds. We really do need that young talent. I remember, I was at a conference out at Park Ridge, Security Exchange. And, this is a decade ago, and John Nemirovsky was chairing a breakout session that we had. And he says, I'm there with all my other competitors in the integration business. And he says, "Okay, I'll I'll be the one that puts the turd on the table. We're all hiring each other's people from each other. And, that's not working for anybody. So we got to find a way to get more talent into this industry and more young talent into this industry. And that was, I've told this story a million times because it really is so true. It's the difference between successful companies and unsuccessful companies I think in any field, and security is certainly one of them, is the quality of the people that you surround yourself with. So you do not want to, you don't want to leave any stone unturned there with regards to bringing in those, making those opportunities out there and really making an attractive career path for people that would want to stay. And they're not going to stay unless they feel appreciated, unless they feel properly compensated, and of course have that drive that you come in with of just, I want to learn. I want to learn more. And, I want to make a constructive, contribution and be viewed as a trusted advisor, by my peers and by my customers.
Well, John Nemorowski is an example of, but both of you are people that we've coined a new term. Actually, Janet Fenner coined this term accidentally a few months ago, MALIs, from male allies. And we absolutely look at you both as male allies. And I know that John has said one of the things he focuses on most in growing his companies is culture and wanting to bring people on, more diverse people, and having that culture that's going to want to keep them on and keep them happy. You've got to understand the people before you can define what that culture is to keep them on. So I think you're both examples of you want to learn about the talent. It's not just checking off a box. I've got enough women on board, but you want to get the right people on board, and you appreciate the diversity of talent because you open your eyes to the people around you to try.
Well, it's a people business. And if you and if you don't take advantage of all of the different resources and talent that's out there, you're not doing yourself any favors. So we'll take our second break now, and then we'll go on to segment 3 and really talk about, the solutions going forward, the different programs and, what have you to further get this education out there. Again, you are listening to the Risk Advisor podcast hosted by myself and my good friend Sal Lafreri. We invite you to comment on our blog, riskadvisor.com, and subscribe and follow us on your social media of your choosing. If you are interested in having one or both of us speak at an upcoming event or would like to consult with us, please go to our webpage at theriskadvisor.com to set that up. So we talked education. Let's continue to talk education as really the key to broadening this, and maybe go into a little bit more onto the Women in Security organization and others that you are collaborating with to try and help with this process.
Thanks. So it's especially relevant that we're having this conversation now. I know you and Sal and I have been talking about getting together since you first announced on LinkedIn in the fall that you were going to do this podcast. But March 8th is our anniversary. It's our 3rd anniversary of forming the SIA Women in Security Forum. And our anniversary is in conjunction with International Women's Day. And being International Women's Month, again, there are no coincidences in the fact that here we are making this conversation happen. But I'm extremely proud of what we have been able to accomplish in the last 3 years in forming this special forum that the Security Industry Association basically recognized as a need and a want by so many people in the industry. And I think what we've done in the last 3 years is create a foundation to empower women and to influence change in the industry. And it all started by having, I believe there were 7 or 8 women that Dawn Erickson, the CEO of SIA, asked to form a group. And we got together and we didn't quite know what we were going to do. So we had to start doing a lot of homework on ourselves, on our goals. And we created what is now known as the Women in Security Forum. We got a logo, we got a mission statement. We worked with a coach so we could really understand what is a mission statement, what is a vision statement. There are a lot of people that have mission statements out there. It doesn't mean they're good ones. There are a lot of groups that have formed over the years that have a women in security focus. Some have lasted, some haven't lasted. So we wanted to understand, what is the purpose of our group? What are the limitations of our group? Do we want to be another social network for women, or do we want to actually do something? So I don't have our mission statement in front of me, but the tagline that we use is empowering women and influencing change. And we wanted to be certain that our group is inclusive. And we wanted to be sure that there are men that are joining our group. You are an official member of the Women in Security Forum, Jim. We have quite a few members. And together we've worked to just enhance the voice that is shared in our industry. We've put together something that has now grown to about 700 members in 3 years that we formed. And we have a LinkedIn page. Anybody can follow. It's SIA Women in Security Forum on LinkedIn. And if you go to the SIA website, you can register for our forum. And what that's going to do is give people an opportunity to stay in the loop of the networking opportunities we offer, of the professional development opportunities that we offer, of just because the pandemic has happened, we haven't slowed down at all. I think we are trying to find more ways to make people feel like they're part of the community. And what we're understanding in creating these opportunities for our community to grow is there are so many women in the security industry. We might not have thought that before, but we've had some networking events recently where we have a virtual meet and greet. And I remember there was one day in the fall on one of our meet and greets where most of the women on the call, they had been in the industry for over 2 decades. We thought, wow, look at this. You think that this is a new industry for so many people. Diana Hanna was one of the women. She's been in the industry for a long time. Antoinette King, she's been in the industry. I met her when I was an integrator. She's been in the industry for 20 plus years. Min, 20 plus years. So there are so many people that have been here for a long time that haven't necessarily had that platform to get involved. And it's all about, we want to make a seat at the table. We want to join the conversation. I don't want to see panels on the stage at events in the future that are all men, because it just gets a little boring when we have some very qualified subject matter experts in the industry who don't want to just talk about diversity, but want to talk about analytics and cybersecurity and the skill sets that they're so educated in, haven't known where that platform is to get involved in these conversations. So I believe that what we've created in these first 3 years, it has been allowing us to build this foundation to focus on items that seem to be priority needs for our community, and then get more people involved. And as we build a more inclusive environment to participate in our events, to participate in our subcommittees, to step up and volunteer, to join our speakers bureau, things that we've created, we find that diversity comes with inclusivity. So we've been creating something that truly is influencing change. Just look at Security Next last week. You're not seeing all male panels. Now, Andrew Lanning, he vowed a year ago, I will no longer be on a manel. We call that was a term that came out, on all male panels. I don't want to see all female panels. I just want to see a mix. I want to have that collaborative conversation, because we've all got so much to offer and such different voices in offering things, that it's been really beautiful seeing people come together in a collaborative way to share our voices, young and old, new in the industry and experienced in the industry, to learn from each other and support each other, because it's all about who is that future that's going to take over when you retire, when I retire. We know you're never really going to retire, but who are these next people that we can trust and count on to bring something more dynamic to this industry, because they're in a different generation and have a different cultural background.
Right. Well, you already answered the question I was going to ask.
Sorry.
How difficult, now, to be recruiting people now, and in the last year and a half of the 3 years, but 700. That's a great accomplishment, and you deserve a lot of credit for that. The other collateral benefit here of women entering the industry from in all different elements of it, from the engineering, for technicians and sales and management and what have you. When the Meeby Weeby programs were first put into place, 10, 15, 20 years ago, you saw a bubble, of women-owned businesses, but you knew that they were concocted of a wife of an owner of another business, or, there were, it was well-intentioned, but it was artificial, because in many cases, they hadn't come up through, the ranks. They might be the president, and what have you, and they may be a 51% owner, but they really weren't as active, in the business the way you are, as a trusted advisor, as we say. Now, I think the legitimacy of those that are going to be owners or are owners of businesses, they've come up like their male counterparts of decades ago. They came up through the ranks, of working in different aspects of the business before they ascended into ownership, and can speak with experience to each one of those disciplines. And that really fulfills the objective of why the Maybe Weeby programs, were set up, to be constructive. Would you agree?
Well, I agree, and I'm seeing change happening because of that. There are a couple of women I might have mentioned, at least one of them so far, that have, even just since they've been in lockdown, they've actually decided that maybe now's the time. The time has come. They've got the confidence. They've got the experience. Why not start their own company? They might have always wanted to start their own company, and now they're doing that. So it's not just checking off a box to have a women-owned business, but it's the fact that after all of these years, they feel as though maybe their needs have been met. Maybe they haven't. Maybe they've got drive and vision. This is the time we want to do something new. And I'm seeing more women starting their own businesses in our industry since COVID started exactly a year ago. And the support system that they're getting from other women to help with that encouragement and coaching has really been, again, this is why I call this a community, because there's so much to be proud of. But seeing women take that next leap and start something they've been dreaming of has had a lot of...
Is that an active discussion point or a service that the Women in Security Forum
Nope.
Is actively looking at promoting, within the community?
Not right now. Where I see that stemming from is the fact that I don't know if you're familiar with this term, but there are a number of us that have, we said we found our tribe, and I would consider you part of my tribe. You're part of that close-knit community. You're a trusted friend, someone I would go to. And when we say our tribe, there are a group of women that have gotten very close, or groups of women, I should say, because they've met through the Women in Security Forum. They've shown up and taken part in the activities that we have and found people that were more relatable to them, that they felt that they could be comfortable in sharing their concerns or their dreams with someone who really understood it, who might have experienced some pitfalls or hiccups along the way that prevented them from doing something. So maybe it's something we should talk about. It's not intentional, but it just is the fact that we found a comfort zone. So many of us have found a comfort zone in one another, that we have become each other's trusted advisors and allies and support systems. And that's grown to helping these changes come to fruition in people's careers. And but you're right. Maybe that is something we should look at, formalizing.
Sal, you saying something?
No, we're just running long on time, FYI.
Okay. So, all right. With that, so Maureen, our listeners here, if they're interested in learning more about the Women in Security Forum, or those that are listening that are interested in talking to the organization about career paths and whatnot, what's the best way for them to reach out and contact you?
Please either go to securityindustry.org/women, and you can register for the forum there. Follow us on LinkedIn. Again, that is SIA Women in Security Forum on LinkedIn, or link me in, Maureen Carlo on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to have a discussion and connect you with our steering committee members and see if there's a place to fit you in if you want to volunteer.
Thanks again for being our guest today, and again, appreciate all the energy I knew you would bring to the podcast. You have been listening to the riskadvisor.com podcast, hosted by myself, Jim Henry, and Sal Lafreri. We ask you to subscribe to this show and like us on the social media of your choice. We remind you and ask if you are interested in having one or both of us speak at an upcoming event or would like to consult with us. Please go to the webpage at theriskadvisor.com to set that up. Remember, you can hear the show on your favorite podcast platform, YouTube, and of course, stream it at theriskadvisor.com. Thanks again for listening, and hope you will tune in again next week.